We had to tell my dad, it's okay, Dad. You can go, Dad. She's with you. She's in your mind. She's in your heart. We shouldn't have had to do it that way. We should have had her with us to support the fact of losing her dad. I realize in his statements he has lost family members, and my heart goes out to him as well.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact of taking a life, we're in fear. What family is left is in fear that this is going to happen to another family member.
It never ceases to shock me when someone is sitting there up for parole, asking for freedom, and yet they show absolutely no self-awareness, no empathy for the victim, not even the ability to fake empathy. He is sitting there writing to his attorney and rolling his eyes as the victim pleads with the parole board not to release this murderer. Now, this hearing is only happening because of Act 23-169, which was legislation that was passed in the state of Connecticut, which made it that anybody under the age of 21, not 18, 21, should be considered a child and therefore should have an opportunity at parole. We will hear from the ADA, we will hear from the victim, we will hear from his defense attorney, and we will hear many impressive accomplishments that this inmate has had. But should any of that be relevant when someone is so inconsiderate to a victim, making a victim impact statement? Let's find out. So with that, let's jump in.
My name is Abdul Mukhtar. My name is Abdul Mukhtar, inmate number 245778.
Thank you. This is a public hearing in accordance to Chapter 14, Freedom of Information Act, Connecticut General Statute 100, which applies to this procedure. If you have any questions concerning the above, please bring your questions to the panel at this time. Again, this is a public hearing. Mr. Mukhtar, do you have any questions, and are you willing to proceed at this time?
I'm ready to proceed and read, if I'm allowed to read my statement.
Shortly, I will give you the go-ahead to do that, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So this Public Act 23-169 hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Abdul Mukhtar, the number 245778. Mr. Mukhtar serving a sentence of 35 years flat with no probation to follow for murder and assault third degree. There is victim input in this case. There's also an offender accountability plan in place that's been reviewed and shows that he has completed the following programs, which includes Voices, Good Intentions, Bad Choices, the Pell Grant College Program, the Second Chance Education Alliance. He's also currently participating in the Yale Prison Education Initiatives, and he also reported having completed Alternatives to Violence, both basic and advanced, the Layout Program, and Beyond Fear. He also currently maintains a job assignment. Utilizing a statewide collective offender risk evaluation system, the offender is brought before and the RT qualifies with moderate range risk recidivism. Mr. Mukhtar, this is not your opportunity to express to the board why you should be granted parole. You may begin.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I'm going to start it like this. I'm forever saddened for what I've done and why I'm here. I know that my actions caused Terry Horgland to lose her life. All this pain and grief due to my actions have caused nothing but pain and grief to her family and mine. Her family will never be the same, and I know this. I live with the pain I have inflicted on so many, especially as I have gotten older. I would like to tell you my story of how I got here and why I want to be given an opportunity to truly prove myself. When my parents were sober, I had a decent childhood. Once they got active into their addiction, my life changed drastically. After experiencing physical and sexual abuse, my paternal grandmother stepped in and raised me from the age of 9 to 15. My grandmother ran a tight ship. She was the commander-in-chief who showed me love and taught me values, morals, and principles that I had lost sight of after she died when I was 15 years old. My upbringing was by family members who came from the streets. My family structure was based on drugs and gang culture. I got right into gang and drug life, and I didn't realize what this trajectory my life was going in. I had got caught up into the streets, yet I went to high school at Bullet Havens and then Harding High School, yet the pull of the streets and gang culture was very powerful. I had an uncle who introduced me into Islam, and Islam gave me a structure and discipline, and it gave me the courage to graduate high school and go into the Navy. I had got a medical discharge from the Navy due to my asthma. When I was back in Bridgeport, back around the same people, places, and things, I found myself caught up into that same drug and gang lifestyle. On February 14th, 1996, I gave someone a gun, and it was used to kill Terry Horgland. I was charged and convicted for it, and I take full responsibility for it. I was sentenced to 50 years in prison, and I was scared, lonely, and had to adjust to my new reality. Over the years, when I first started my sentence, I was angry, scared, and lacked a sense of purpose. As I got a little older, I started to mature, yet I kept finding myself feeling I had to prove myself to people due to my insecurity within myself. It wasn't until 11 years in, when my father died from cancer, when I realized I had screwed up and needed to change. Because I was ashamed of the last time he seen me, I was shackled in an orange jumpsuit saying goodbye to him on his deathbed. I didn't know how to cope with my father's death, and I lacked the skills. And yes, I played the victim. It wasn't until I found myself at SAG at 37 years old at Cheshire, CI, and I had to grow up, because I had to look at me and stop the blame game and take responsibility for all my actions of what I have done to my life and everyone else's life that I had affected. Those 30 days in SAG was my beginning journey into the man I am today. I was sent to Mandoo, CI, and here I started my growth and maturity by first owning my nonsense I have done in my life, and I apologize to staff I have wronged, and thank staff who had tried to help me in any problem I had in the past. The first program that I took that really gave me my wake up to adulthood was the Way Out program. This program made me face that wounded little boy inside of me, who was scared, lonely, who had to deal with the childhood trauma from physical and sexual abuse, abandonment issues, to low self-esteem, and doing anything to be accepted. I had to realize, based on my bad decision making, I put me here. As I started to heal, I also was given an opportunity by a former unit manager to get into the college program, Second Chance Education Alliance. In this college program, the program director was a true blessing for me, because she told me and showed me how I have value and worth. With a college education, it can open up my mind as well as opportunities I never had imagined was possible. By 2022, several correctional staff members had recommended that I put in for a sentence commutation, and I did. When I filed for my commutation, I felt nervous because I had not ever received any positive results from any review of my sentence. When I was waiting to receive my commutation hearing, I had got accepted into the Yale Prison Education Initiative College program, where I am working on to obtain my associate degree in general studies. Once I received my sentence commutation, I felt guilty, because here I am I'm in here for someone's death. And I'm like, yo, come on, man. I felt crazy. So yes, I got my sentence commuted from 50 years to 35 years. Yes, someone is dead due to my actions. Since I have come back to McDougal CI over the last 11 years, I have advocated for and helped older aging prisoners who are dying from cancer, cirrhosis of the liver, or AIDS. I do this because I think of my debt I owe to Terry's family for her death, and the debt I owe my father for not being there for him when he needed me. If given the opportunity to be free, my reentry plan is simple. I am affiliated with the Yale Prison Reentry Program, where they help get me a job at Yale New Haven Hospital, and they help me to continue my education, to get me my bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm also seeking to receive mental health treatment from DEMAS, Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, as well as any other mental health agencies that will provide me with mental health treatment. I have spent over half my life in prison for murder. I deal with guilt, shame, what I've done. I do have family support from my sister in upstate New York. However, I need to learn how to readjust to society, to deal with life on life's terms. And if granted parole, I need a parole officer I can communicate with who will help me actually learn how to live for the first time in society as a grown man. I would like to spend time with my mother, who's in her 80s and whose health is declining rapidly, and also to build a relationship with my son, who's now 33 years old, and I've never spent time with. My biggest thing is I take full responsibility for my actions, and I can't never say sorry enough, and I can't never do enough, honestly and truthfully, because I think of what my grandmother raised me, how she taught me, and it bothers me as I've gotten older. I have grandchildren now, and I look at life on a whole different spectrum. The young man I was is not the man I am today. And I know that's no excuse, but I just feel like, honestly, I want to prove myself and show society and show people that I'm not that person. And I'm ashamed of what I did and what I was.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Muchar, for your opening statement. We appreciate your taking the time out to write your thoughts down. Much of what you shared with us, we did review in your file, and we appreciate your sharing it with the general public. We also appreciate the package that was sent by your attorney. We've reviewed your commutation file, all of your documents in connection with this offense at PSI. We've thoroughly reviewed your file, and we are very well versed in why you're here today and what you've accomplished since you've been in the facility. So what will happen is each of us will take an opportunity to ask you some questions. When we are done with our questions, we will turn the hearing over to our victims advocate, Ms. Williams, for victim input. Then the state's attorney will have an opportunity to speak. Then your attorney will have an opportunity to speak as well. And then we will deliberate, the panel. And then when we're done deliberating, we will give you our decision. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
We wish you the best of luck, sir. And I will begin with the questions. So first off, I know that you were sentenced as Kareem Brown. When did you change your name legally?
I was about 17. I was an emancipated adult, and I was into Islam. So I changed my name at that time. I want to say around 93.
And what does Abdul Bakr mean? I know that usually has a meaning. Does it?
Yeah, my whole name is Abdul Kareem Jamal Mukhtar. They just shortened it for DOC, but Abdul Kareem means the servant of the most generous, Jamal meaning beautiful, and Mukhtar means the chosen one who has a free will to choose.
Okay, wait, servant?
Servant. Abdul Kareem means servant of the most generous one.
Okay, generous one.
Jamal means beautiful.
Okay.
And Mukhtar means the chosen one who has a free will to choose.
Okay. And I'm just curious to know why you chose that name.
At the time, I was so heavily in love with the Islamic faith, and I wanted to give myself a new beginning. So it's like Kareem just means the generous one. And only the Most High, the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, could be the most generous one. So as a man, you are the servant of the most generous one. Jamal was always my middle name, so that means beautiful in Arabic. And Mukhtar is an attribute of one of the names of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him. And it means the chosen one. And I felt I was chosen to do something with my life. I just unfortunately made bad decisions after I walked away from Islam. But also what Mukhtar means, the one who has a free will to choose. And I believe I always had a free will to choose. I had chose righteousness on one hand, and then I chose unrighteousness on the other afterwards when I regressed.
Well, we all have choice. That's what this is all about. The choices that we make, and we have to learn from those choices. So I hope that you live up to the meaning of your name. I heard you talk about in your opening statement that you want to rekindle relationships with your mother in particular and your son. So I thought that you didn't really have a relationship with your mom. When did you start talking to her again?
I've been corresponding with my mother for the last about 4 or 5 years, really heavily over the phone, and just, trying to address and heal old wounds. And, I had to learn how to forgive, you know what I mean? And I've forgiven, I've learned to forgive, and I had to understand she has a story too. And when I got to understand her story and what she's been through in her life,
Yeah,
it changed my outlook.
it does. It makes a difference, right? It
Yes,
does.
ma'am.
We look at our parents as if they're supposed to be perfect people, and in essence, no one's perfect,
Exactly.
And I think we hold them to a higher standard, but they're just people just like we are, and I'm glad that you were able to give her that grace, because that's all she can do was the best that she could do at that time. And
Exactly.
I'm glad that you found it in your heart to forgive her. And hopefully, I know that the relationship you told the officer with your son is touch and go. So I hope that he extends the same grace that you've given him, and you're able to rekindle that and move forward positively. So I just want you to know, Mr. Muchar, that we're not here to determine your guilt or innocence. Because according to the documents that we have reviewed, everything says that you committed this offense. So we're not here to retry the case. We're not. That's not our job here today. You were found guilty by a jury of your peers, and so to us, that's what we're going based on. I just wanted to put that out there so that you don't think that I'm not going to argue that with you. I'm just saying that that's not what my job is here to do. I heard you accept responsibility in your opening statement for giving, for being in possession of the gun and giving it to someone who committed this crime. I'm curious to know, why do you think the victim's sister or whoever was in the car with the victim would say your name if it was not you?
Because the car was known to be owned by me.
Okay.
The person that when they used the car, that's why, because the car was supposed to be known to be used by me at that time.
Okay. And did you actually know this victim? Because they're saying that they knew who you were and you knew who they were.
Yes, ma'am. At that time, I was a low-level drug dealer. I was in the streets. I knew the victims. I knew everybody in the all the players in this game. Everybody knew everybody. We always traveled in that same circle.
Okay.
Only thing is that when the actual crime happened, to be honest with you, I wasn't there. But I can't lie, I did facilitate the crime.
Okay.
But I was not there.
And so you've been down now for what, 28 years?
Yes, ma'am. Almost 29 years. Yes, ma'am.
And in 28 years, you've received 15 disciplinary infractions. And the last disciplinary infraction that you received was in 2012, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I heard you, we just saw someone who had been down a little bit longer than you and had a few more disciplinary infractions than you. However, there were none that displayed violence. But I think that according to your opening statement, you explained to us that you came in, that you were you had a chip on your shoulder, so to speak. And because of the lifestyle that you had led, your parents were heavily involved in addiction, and you turned to the street. That's what you knew, right? And and I'm assuming that trickled over into your behaviors in the facility until you said you finally grew up when you got that ticket at 37 years old and you were in SEG, and you knew that you had to change. And that's when you started engaging in education. And I've read a number of letters that were submitted on your behalf talking about the good work that you've done with your education. And I hope that you continue in that, because it's my understanding that there are only a select few that get to participate in that program, the Yale Initiative, or the Second Chance Initiative through Yale. So I really do hope that you continue on that. I've read that you're 27 credits shy from getting your associates.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good thing. You know, with education, it broadens your horizon. It opens a ton of doors, and it makes you more marketable. So what is that saying? Knowledge is power.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So it really does seem as if that's really where you've been headed ever since you got that light bulb. You know, I got to do better for myself. I want better for myself. It really does appear that that's what you've been trying to do. Do you mentor in the facility at all?
I do a lot more than just mentoring. I mentor younger brothers. I mentor older brothers that have been incarcerated. I take care of older brothers. I help them learn. I write. I teach them how to read. I teach them how to write. I litigate for them in terms of DOC issues, medical health issues, especially. You know, I do a lot. I interact with the staff. I mediate with inmates and staff. Sometimes staff have an issue with particular inmates, and I'll come in and I'll mediate the situation and try to get both parties to see what's what and come to a compromise and try to work things out. I definitely am someone who's real big on geriatric treatment in terms of, because so many men in here are dying of health issues. Yeah, and the lack of medical treatment, or the lack of access to medical treatment, or lack of access to mental health treatment. So I really push the issues in terms of through the departmental regulations, and even if I need to go outside to the courts to get these men adequate treatment that they need. And it's significant. And, you know, being a population is 58% African American, 37% Latino, it's a whole different animal. And then with many of my Latin brothers, the language barrier comes into play a lot of times, and they need someone not to just translate or work with them, but it's a cultural barrier as well. So I have to navigate between culture and all of that with inmates and try to work things out so they can get what they need, and staff doesn't feel like they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, or feel put out and feel respected at the same time. So that's what I do in here. Well, I interact.
Well, I appreciate that. Do you consider yourself a jailhouse lawyer? I know that's the terminology. I don't know. But
they call me all kinds of things: jailhouse lawyer, jailhouse advocate, legal aid, whatever, whatever it is, the PC word to use.
Yeah, well, thanks for trying to help those people. So let's talk a little bit about what you believe your future is going to look like once you're released from that facility. I heard you talk about feeling guilty for getting your commutation, and I understand that. But apparently that panel believed that you were worthy and deserving. So now you're before us and you're asking for early release. What do you think you could say to the victim's family that will provide them some comfort with your being returned to the community?
First of all I could honestly say to the family is that I'm sorry from the depths of my soul for what I did. None of this should have never happened in the first place. It was based out of ego. It was based out of stupidity. It was based out of pride. It was just nonsense. It was street nonsense. You know, that ideology that we had growing up in the 80s and 90s of street life was just foolishness. And as far as like, I owed them a debt that I could never repay, but whatever they would ask of me to do or could do, honestly, I would do, because She
What
was
if that
somebody.
is, what if that's stay in prison?
Well, I would hope not, because I'm not serving nobody no justice in prison. I mean, I'm doing what I'm doing in here, but staying in prison. If that was the case, what would be the purpose of getting a commutation? What would be the purpose of any of these things? I mean, the state offered me 25 years initially for this case, for this crime, and I didn't take it, and that was my stupidity. That was on me. But the family was cool with me taking 25 years, and it was an agreement of that. Had I took that 25 years, I would have been home in 2019. But unfortunately, stupidity, arrogance, and all these things played a factor in me being where I'm at today. Now, me correcting my conduct, my behavior, my way of thinking, in my life, I changed a lot of that. And the family has nothing to fear from me or have to worry about anything from me, other than the fact that be a moral and upright citizen. And from here on out, Terry's life has to have a meaning, has a purpose. And whatever I can do and keep her memory alive, and knowing that this is what happens when young people, especially misguided young people, do stupid things, and you fall into this idiotic nonsense like what we hear these kids listening to in this rap music today, and feeds a culture and a behavior where people get killed for nothing. We live in a society today where children aren't even safe in the elementary school without somebody going in there murdering children with an assault rifle and blaming it on a video game. So, I mean, I'm not that person and never will be that person. But I am a person that I'm forever sorry for what I've done. And that family, I mean, I get it. I get it. Truly, I get it.
Right. We were just talking amongst ourselves today. If we were placed in a position where we had to forgive, or a person that took one of our loved ones, and what our positions would be, we weren't sure that we would be so forgiving, or that we would be in favor of any type of release. So, but we do this kind of work, and are always amazed by the strength that the victims' families have to come before us and even say that they're opposed, or sometimes they even say that they're in favor of release. And either way, participating in this kind of thing is courageous. So I appreciate what you shared, that nothing you could say would really provide them with any kind of comfort with your returning, but you would do everything that you possibly could to keep her memory alive, and to prevent someone else from having to go through something very similar. So I appreciate that. So what my next question is going to be, the young men that come in there that have the gun charges and things like that, what do you say to them about their use of violence in the communities, or how do you deter them from further violence or recidivism?
Well, the first thing I do is try to get a personal understanding of who they are in their situation, and where did that concept come from. Many of these young men coming from my same background, inner city, and they're influenced by gangs and drugs and all of that nonsense. And then I try to get the human aspect. Who are they? What did you do before you got into all of that? What was your family like? What do you like? And understand their story. Many of them are just like me, young brothers that got caught up in the peer pressure and that concept of what they thought they were doing was right, or, it's just, I really get them to understand and look at the human aspect. And I take it similar to what you just said, and think about whether the victim is a man or a woman, young, old, if that was their family member, how do you really feel? And connect, because a lot of times when you're young, you're disengaged. You're not really engaged in what you actually did. You don't really or nobody even helps you understand the seriousness and the ramifications of what you've done. And if nobody is talking to you and helping you understand that, you won't be able to comprehend. And then when I get them to understand the human aspect, many of them, I start talking to them and showing them like, yo, listen, We can't cry over spilled milk. We can't change what we've done, but we can change what we do moving forward. And start to connect with them in the humanity of them and who they are and what they are. Because we're not the person, or we're not the charge that we're convicted of. So I have to get them to understand that this isn't a lifestyle that you need to continue to live. But I also get them to show them to understand that, look around you, look where we at, look at the environment, and show them with older inmates especially, that's been here for 30, 40, almost 50 years. And many of them had came in when they were young. They didn't get the opportunities that you're getting right now, where you getting access to a commutation, or you're getting access to a juvenile parole, or even getting people to advocate, like myself, to advocate for you to even get a psychological evaluation prior to you getting a modification or a commutation or something. Because a lot of these young men, they don't understand the ramifications. They don't understand that this has been a system that was designed to put them here. Because based on FBI crime statistics, when you look at in Connecticut, the majority of the inmates that coming into prison are coming out of the New Haven, New Hallville section and Fairhaven section, the Hartford North End and South End, the Bridgeport East End and East Side, the Waterbury and Willow section. So, right, and they're coming from the same communities. And many of these kids are coming out of these communities. So when you're looking at generation, we never seen that. We never understood that this was systematically designed. Not saying that it's right or wrong, it's just saying that it is what it is. So we have to speak to that. So when I get them young men to understand what's going on, show them that they have an obligation to themselves, to the victim's family, and to their own families. So I appeal to them to start looking at the humanity side and not take this as a joke or a game. Because when they get sentenced to 50, 60, 80, 100, 100 and something years, whether you see a parole in 30 years, you are definitely not going to be, hopefully, not the same person you was when you came in.
Right. That's our expectation anyway. And you know, it's people like you who have been in the system who are able to talk to these young people, and they frequently they come and sit before us and they say, I have a person that was, you know, that spoke to me, that sat down, an OG, they'll call them, who really spoke life into them. So we appreciate the work that you're doing in these facilities. And we understand that it's a difficult system to navigate, but we appreciate the insight that you're providing to these younger people. Hopefully we can reduce the risk of recidivism by working collaboratively instead of against one another. One last question, Mr. Muchar, if I'm saying it correctly. One of your letters of support says that you want to go and live with her. It's a female. I want to say a
sister.
Yeah, but you asked for a halfway house. Which one is it?
Well, I want to go to the halfway house. I was looking to be with my sister, but I feel honestly and truthfully, I need a halfway house, because to be thrust right out into family, I'm not ready for that. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I need to reacclimate into society in gradual steps.
Yeah.
To be around family right now, just to be thrown out after being incarcerated for the last 28 plus years. I don't know how to really, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know how to deal with all of that. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. It's going to be a lot. I'm here to tell you. I mean, you know how we used to have keys for cars now? That you just press a button, these cars start up, the cars drive themselves, they park themselves. I mean, I can't afford that kind of stuff. That's for rich people, but there's technology is so far advanced right now, and navigating that will be an adjustment for you, because I understand that people do your laundry in there, that your food is brought to you, unless you work in the kitchen, you don't cook that, all of that stuff, paying a bill. those will definitely be adjustments. And I'm glad that you're going to some place that will help you, that's structured in a way that will help you transition from the facility to the halfway house, from the halfway house back out into the community, being an independent person, able to work on yourself. So I appreciate all that you've done. I appreciate our conversation, and you know, you've done a good job. And Mr. Mushar, I would challenge you that even if you are not granted parole here today, that you continue being the person that you are, and that our decision does not stop you from being this light that you are in the facility or in the community. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Chance.
Mr. Martar, just a few comments. You talk about some of the work that you're doing there where, you know, you're teaching older adults how to read and write, and that you're advocating for some of the treatment for older inmates. And you also talked about advocating for other Hispanic offenders. And I just thought that was so significant. I went back to looking at some of the things that you say you want to do. And one of the things that you said is that you have 27 credits that you need. You need 27 credits to get your associate degree. But ultimately, you want to work on a BA in psychology.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you know, I want to say to you, when you talked about the communities where these crimes are committed, I would like to recommend a book for you to read. And then all these things that you just talked about will make even more sense to you. And the name of the book is When Work Disappears. And it is by Frank Smith.
When work disappears? By Frank Smith, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And yes. And, you know, I appreciate that you want to not just end with the associate degree. But I think the BA in psychology and with the work that you did during your incarceration, which I think is very impressive. How many young men would pay attention to the older offenders who may never come out?
Right.
And you still felt the need to teach them how to read and write and how to advocate for treatment for them. So that speaks volumes to me that you have certainly made positive changes in your life.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I want to wish you the best of luck. And I have no questions. I just wanted to add on to what you have said.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. Mr. Poole?
No question.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. So we're done with our questions. Now we're going to turn the hearing over to our victims advocate, Mrs. Williams. Good afternoon, our last one. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We have finally arrived. The sister of the victim who would like to address the panel today. One moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may begin with your statement.
Do you want me to identify who I am or just remain as a victim?
You don't have to. You don't need to say your name on the record if you don't want to.
Okay, I am Terry Horglad's sister. I am the victim's sister. I do not support parole being granted due to the fact that there was a call several years back on her anniversary date from a gentleman in Virginia that was incarcerated with the accused, trying to contact the family. That was kind of fearful, especially on the day that she was an anniversary. And we, as what family she does have left, are in fear of this man being released due to the fact it was also mentioned that he may have gotten her, but he wasn't done until he got the entire family. She has since lost a dad that she was very close to and was never able to attend his bedside as he was dying. She has also had several nieces and a nephew, great nieces and nephew, that she has never had a chance to be a part of their life. I realize that people do change, but this could have been avoided if the changes were made prior to his childhood being as rough as it was. Again, the family is in fear of this man being released, due also to the fact that, one, when he was sentenced, he had no remorse to the family at all. I believe being incarcerated is what brought him to justice, to have some type of remorse. And the fact also that when the crime was committed, it was also stated by him that it was going to be committed. So in my eyes, that would have brought it to premeditated murder. And the fact that he did not comply and come forward to the crime and decided to book out of the state of Connecticut. Again, like I said, I realize people change, but I solemnly feel that the incarceration is what made him change, to be able to come in front of the parole board and prove his case that he needs to be released. It has caused a lot of trauma over the years. Reliving Valentine's Day every year has been a very hard thing for the family to do. Needless to say, not be able to celebrate it due to the fact that it was her life that was taken on that day. Also, the fact that when he was sentenced, his mom had the nerve to say to the family, how am I going to see my son? Well, you are able to see your son in jail. How were we able to see a sister, an aunt, a daughter, a great aunt at a graveside? There has been no remorse proven to the family until today. I do not support him being eligible for parole due to the fact I am scared that this could reoffend to a different family member. I am not at ease knowing that it's not going to. And again, she was taken premeditated murder. That is hard. It is hard. We cannot bring her back. She has missed out on a lot of stuff that she did not deserve to be taken to miss out on. She missed the fact that her father was dying and was not able to be there to support her dad. We had to tell my dad, it's okay, Dad. You can go, Dad. She's with you. She's in your mind. She's in your heart. We shouldn't have had to do it that way. We should have had her with us to support the fact of losing her dad. I realize in his statements he has lost family members, and my heart goes out to him as well.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact of taking a life, we're in fear. What family is left is in fear that this is going to happen to another family member. We are not confident that he's going to continue on the streets in the community to remain drug-free, out of trouble, not recommit another murder to somebody else. I got the phone call the day my sister was taken, stating that he was going to stab my sister or he was going to shoot my sister. I remember that clear as day. I think of it every day. I think of it every Valentine's Day. I do not want to see this man out. I am in fear. I have battled 2 different types of cancers, almost lost my life, that I could not have my sister by my side, that I was very, very close to and had raised at once upon a time. I'm sorry, but I cannot support this. It's heartbreaking to have to relive this all over again, 28 years plus more. My understanding, he was not to be eligible for parole. I realize he did it at a very young age. But if people aren't held accountable to the extent of their crime, chances are they're going to reoffend. And I'm hoping that it's not going to be another one of our family members. I have nothing else to add.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your statement.
Thank you. So at this time, each of the attorneys will be afforded an opportunity to make a statement. At this time, we'll begin with State's Attorney Marchella. Do you have any comments or statements you'd like to make on the record?
Yes, sure. Yes, briefly. And good afternoon, members of the board. I just want to first say that the feelings of the victim should be considered by this board in the consideration of giving Mr. Mukhtar early release from his current sentence, as well as the tremendous impact that his actions had upon them. What I will say is that the board of pardons and paroles did grant Mr. Mukhtar a commutation which lowered his sentence from 50 years to 35 years, which will lead to his early release from his period of incarceration, and that it is the opinion of the Office of the State's Attorney that Mr. Mukhtar serve any period in which he should during that new 35-year sentence, and that no additional time be taken off. However, what I will say is that in my limited communications with Mr. Mukhtar, while he had a habeas matter pending, he was nothing but pleasant. He was polite, and he did everything in his power to do what he believed was the right thing with regard to his case. I will say he has challenged his conviction in a number of different ways, but it is the opinion of the Office of State's Attorney that that he be held to the 35 years that represents his new sentence. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, Attorney O'Brien, do you have any final remarks or statements you'd like to make? You may do so now.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to the board for the opportunity to present Mr. Mukhtar's case today for why he should be paroled. And he should be. I think that Mr. Mukhtar presents to this board one of the prime examples of why this type of parole exists in the first place. There is no way to bring back a person once they're gone. And although you have heard Mandoo, his sincere remorse and his acceptance of responsibility for what he did, there's no making up for what he did. Nobody knows this better than he does. And it's true. He didn't always know that. He grew up in prison. He came to realize that his life had to mean something, and that only he is the one who can give it meaning. And the packet that we've submitted and the answers you've heard from Abdul today, I think you can see that transition occur, and it has occurred over time until Abdul has become the man that's sitting before you today. He began taking full advantage of the available programming. He worked, continues to work. He enrolled in classes and worked hard to get himself to where he is now, including attending, as the board knows, the very limited limited availability of the Yale program that he's in. And he's close to an associate's degree and working towards his bachelor's degree. In the interim, as part of all that work, not only has he forged a good relationship with staff, he's demonstrated dedication to assisting other inmates with their legal issues, personal issues, and their institutional issues, all while not having his own challenge to his own conviction pending, since shortly after his commutation was granted and he withdrew his habeas petition. There's nothing pending challenging his conviction right now. I think it's important to note this is obviously not a challenge to anything, and this is not the commutation either. Rather, this is a separate and unique process for people who have been in and who have committed offenses when they were children, or with the new amendments to laws, nothing more than children, really, which is where Mr. Mukhtar falls. You can see his growth, I think you really see it best in almost every inmate, and Mr. Mukhtar is no exception to that. You can see growth through the disciplinary history. His tickets started when he came to jail. He earned several in the years when he first came in. Now he started getting less, and then less, and then there were years between them, and then it was only one a year, and then there were more years between them until in 2012 he got his last ticket. He hasn't had anything since then. That's not just not breaking the rules. That's not putting himself in a situation where even there could be a misunderstanding about whether a rule is broken. That's truly remarkable. There's been no other tickets. There's no other crimes. Nothing. And not to dispute anything that victims' relatives have said that I'm sure have happened to them throughout this case. There's nothing in the records, and there's certainly nothing in Mr. Mukhtar's records or the submissions that he sent in, which would correspond with any of the behavior alleged, particularly about any calls coming from Virginia or anything like that. Again, that certainly may have happened from someone else, but I think there's nothing in either institutional records and certainly nothing in the submissions before you that would in any way allow any correspondence between that and this man sitting before you right now. He has a clear plan for his release. He'll take full advantage of the resources provided to him through, I think, another mature decision, going to a halfway house as opposed to straight out into the community, knowing that he needs a period of readjustment and assistance that he can get that way. Planning to take full advantage of the Yale reentry program, to allow himself to get a job, to be able to save money and support himself while learning how to support himself for, as he said, the first time in his adult life. Also in your submissions, I think very important to read, and I'm sure you read them very carefully, was Dr. Meisler's original 2016 report and the 2024 amendment that we had offered. And it's only a couple of weeks old itself. To describe a boy with a chaotic childhood led to a poor decision-making youth who has since become a man who's been able to make good choices, who's secured a strong support system and equipped himself with the tools of education and dedication program that he needs to be a contributing and safe member of society. And yet the first and last thing you've heard from me, that you heard from him, is about his remorse, as I think it is the manifestation of maturing. This is going to remain with him, will remain with him, driving him to make his life mean something, driving him to remember, to bring meaning and memory to life of victim as well. And that struggle and that search for meaning is going to occupy the rest of his life. But its meaning at this point can no longer be found in custody, where he has done just about everything he can to grow into the man that he is now. best way for him to continue his growth in the world at large. And he's going to be released to in short order, where he can take advantage not only of what society can offer him, but where he can finally give back to society that he is ready to rejoin. So for those reasons, I'd ask that the board find that Abdul is one of the best examples for why this process exists, that his continued incarceration is no longer necessary and that he should be granted parole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Attorney O'Brien and Attorney Formicelli, and to the victim who has participated in this hearing today. So we will now enter into deliberation. And as I've said a few times today, we're going to take into account several factors. One, according to our risk assessment, his risk in the community, which our assessment shows that he's a moderate risk. His age, his rehabilitation, his behavior in the facility, how he has changed through his program participation, the input from the victim's office, and also the input from the state's attorney. So I am going to start with the deliberation process. And, you know, these cases are always very difficult in that they're emotional. Someone lost their life, and which is one of the reasons why I asked Mr. Muchar what information could he offer this victim as you know, to show them that, you know, he's changed and that, or to comfort them, you know, in relation to this loss. And I remember when I listened to his commutation hearing, at first I said, this guy sounds like he, you know, has a chip, like he's edgy. And then as I listened further, I'm like, he's just really passionate about what it is that he's doing and just life in general. And that clearly came across here today. He's done a tremendous amount of work on himself. He, through his education, that he speaks so passionately about, he has so many goals set for himself. He demonstrated short-term goals. Well, he talked to us about his short-term goals and his long-term goals that he has set for himself in the package that we received. He talked about some of the things that he believes will be challenging when he's released out into the community, navigating life outside of the prison walls, how he has gone from being this young boy, 20 years old in prison, to growing up into now this 48-year-old man with so much to offer. I mean, teaching people how to read and write and how to advocate for themselves, and just being able to provide insight as to why he was behaving in the manner that he was and how much he's developed over this time, even when there was no exit in sight. You know, when he thought that he was serving 60 years, he was doing this on his own, out of his own will. I just think that it speaks volumes and to the person that he was opposed to the person that he has become today. I heard him talking about his mental health and how that's going to be a key factor as well, how he plans on getting counseling. I mean, even as his attorney said, you know, saying, I'm going to go to a halfway house. I want to be with my family, but I need to learn how to be out in the community first before I start being around people that love and support me. But he has a solid relapse, a solid release plan. I see education at the top of this list. He aspires to be a trauma specialist. He's taken a number of positive programs. And I think that at this point, that he would really be a benefit to other communities in Connecticut to advocate for, you know, a reduction in violence, to talk to some of these people out in the streets, think that getting these guns and belonging to these gangs and settling beefs, they're on their own. perhaps he can get through some of them because we can't. I'm going to keep using that, by the way. I think that there really is not very much more that Mr. Mukhtar can do in the facility, and that he would be more valuable out in the community. That's not to negate any of the concerns that the victim has expressed. I hear her, and I understand where she's fearful. I understand the loss that she's endured, and that, you know, the things that her sister has missed out on. I understand that as well. And I really do feel as though, in order to prevent others from experiencing something similar as she has, that Mr. Mukhtar will hit the ground running to try to help others as he has in that facility. So I would support discretionary parole. And just for the record, you know, commutation is something that he applies for. This is not something that he's asking for. This is something that he's eligible for. These 23-169s are hearings that he's not asking for. This is something that the law has put in place for people who have committed these crimes under this age. And so he's eligible for this. And because he meets the criteria is why we're having this hearing today. So he is eligible, and I would support his discretionary vote. Ms. Chance.
I absolutely agree with you, Madam Chair. And to know that education is important with Mr. Carr, he had a high school diploma before he went in. He got sideswept, but somehow during his incarceration, it took him a while to get adjusted to the prison life. What I am most impressed with him about is the fact that he chose to teach older adults how to read and write. He taught them how to advocate for treatment themselves. He talked about advocating for other Hispanic offenders. And it was telling me that he's really looking at a broader perspective of what his community is like. He wants to make amends with his mother and his son, that he has forgiven her. So, you know, he has spent the last part of his incarceration really working on himself. In terms of his education, he wants to complete and get his associate degree. But when I look at where he wants to go with his BA and become a trauma specialist, it goes back to the work that he started during his incarceration. And that's what I think is so commended for Mr. Mukhtar, because he is able to take what he's done during this incarceration and apply it and want to make communities better once he's out there. And he's not just talking about African Americans, he's talking about the entire community. And while I hear the distress, I certainly hear and feel for what the victim is saying. I know what it is for a holiday to come around and not being able to celebrate it because, you've lost a family member during that time. But I feel he is ready to go back out and be a positive person. And I hope eventually that the victim's sister and other family members will see that from afar and observe it. And I just wish them much success. And Mr. Mukhtar, I wish you all the success that you deserve when you go back out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Well,
I have nothing more to offer. You summed it up quite well, Madam Chair.
Thank you, kind of.
I absolutely support our having discretionary approach.
Thank you. So, for conditions, he's asking for a halfway house. I have victim in, mental health evaluation too.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, so with regard to Abdul Mukhtar, 245778, I move that he be granted discretionary parole on or after today's date, November 4th, and rights, 2024, with the following conditions in addition to the standard parole conditions. You are to have no contact with the deceased victim's family. I have initials TS, is that correct? What? TS, okay.
Yes, yeah.
All right, you are to participate in a mental health evaluation and treatment is deemed necessary, only because we think it's gonna, you talked about it yourself, so, and a halfway house, for residential placement.
Second.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so Mr. Mukhtar, congratulations, sir, you've been voted to parole. We wish you all the best, and just, be proud of yourself, continue doing the hard work. I know that this seems so far away for you, but you've done the work. Now it's time to go out there and put the, wait, what's that saying? Put your money, put the money where your mouth is, put the mouth where your money is. I don't know. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, board.
Good luck to you. Thank you, attorney, everyone for all your help today.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot, sir.
This concludes the public act 69 hearing for Abdul Mukhtar, date number 5778, and it's 3 and 8.
Okay, let me fix the way that this hearing should have gone. And I'll tell you, I listened to the hearing. I was doing it while, actually cleaning some things, doing what listening in my other ear. And I'm thinking, this guy actually sounds authentic. I actually am rooting for him. The way that he was answering the questions and the way that he described how he helps people by first asking and understanding who those people are, what their life experiences are. It felt real, it felt like he's trying to do everything that he can, being the jailhouse lawyer with all of the appeals. But then what happens? It throws it all away for me was when the victim gets up and speaks and he shows a complete lack of empathy. He shows no regard for her feelings. On the contrary, he rolls his eyes. He's sitting there and he is talking during her statement. He's writing notes when she says she's in fear for her life. He rolls his eyes. That throws everything out the window for me. You lose everything. How can you not? What did we? And then the parole board doesn't mention it. They see what we're seeing. Not only that, but the ADA has the audacity to go out of his way to say, well, in all the habeas corpus cases, he's always been a gentleman. And he doesn't call out the eye rolling? God, it pisses me off. It really is. And the idea that he wouldn't even have the insight to know that it would make him look bad. He couldn't even fake it. What a disrespectful thing to do to someone who is pleading for their loved one. And let's keep in mind, he was only just recently granted a commutation. This is, here's the question that I can ask them, but this is so easy. This is so easy to bring up. He was just given a commutation. All I would have to do if I was the ADA is say, hey, parole board, he was granted a commutation just a few years ago. I'd have played it for you if we had it, but we didn't start recording them. If the parole board in their wisdom wanted him to have gotten out earlier than they set the commutation date, they would have set it at that date. So who are you now to come there and overturn that ruling? How can you re-victimize a victim? That's the main problem I have here. Oh, Mandoo, relax. Relax, get over it. Look at what he's done. Where's your empathy, Mandoo? It's so funny because the answer to that, I want to hear you answer this. Where is your empathy for the victim? You see, I pick which side I want my empathy to lay in, and this is so easy. Now, had he not rolled his eyes, had he not shown in utter, complete disrespect, we heard from the victim that that someone reached out to her. Are you calling her a liar? Or do you think that maybe he thought that would be clever? Maybe he had nothing to do with it. Who knows? But I believe it happened. How is that ignored? Sometimes you feel like you go crazy. He's given this long sentence, and he kind of felt his anger still. I felt like when he retorted to the question of, well, why should you get out early? And I thought he had anger there too. He's like, well, because I should, the victim's family agreed on the deal. I should have taken the deal. I was stupid. They agreed anyways at 25 years. So 25 years is what they'll get. To me, that struck me. That was like, it's like also the way you're saying it too. The victim should be fine. I served enough time. Let me share with you. Thank you, Sir Richard. This was before Lady Holly was here, so I'm going through some older hearings. I like the Act 23-169 hearings because you have the attorney, you have the ADA. It's more like what I like that format a little bit more. Let me know if you don't like it. If you prefer it, there's a playlist for it. It's the Act 23-169 hearing, which, and this is why it's so crazy to me, right? He applies for a commutation hearing. He gets it. Then they pass new legislation that says anyone under the age of 21 is a child, not 18, 21. So now he gets a parole hearing, which they never considered when giving the commutation hearing. So he gets another bite at the apple, re-victimizes the victims, and then they get to supersede the commutation board's decision. That's crazy. How is that fair? How does it even make sense? From the victim's perspective. So the jury reasonably could have found the following facts. Approximately 4 p.m., February 14, 1996, Benjamin Jr. was, and by the way, I looked it up, he is still out. So good for him. He is still on parole. He's not been revoked. Was driving his parents' car on Fairfield Avenue, Bridgeport, while stopped at a red light at the intersection of Fairfield. Sierra spotted two young women, Tracy Guevara and Terry Hoagland, with whom he was acquainted, standing at a nearby payphone. Sierra was waved to Gabtree and Horglin as they approached and entered Sierra's car. Horglin sat in the front passenger seat of the car, and she sat in the back. Gabri asked Sierra for a smoke. Sierra then turned around and gave her a cigarette and a light. Sierra asked Gabri and Horglin where they were going, and one of them responded that they were homeless and just wanted to get warm. When Sierra turned back towards the front car, he observed that his vehicle was blocked by a tan car that was facing the wrong direction on Fairfield Avenue. At that moment, Gabtree shouted, "Oh, snap, Kareem." Gabri then fled from Sierra's car. A man later identified by Sierra and Gabri as the defendant emerged from the tan car and approached the passenger side of Sierra's car, where Horglin remained seated. Sierra jumped out of the car and asked the defendant what was wrong. The defendant did not respond. This is him, our prince. The defendant, who did not respond, pulled out what appeared to be a .32 or .38 caliber chrome-plated revolver and fired 4 shots at Horglin, each of which entered the right side of her body. She died as a result of the gunshot wounds. Additional facts will be set forth as necessary. So yeah, again, seems he walked right up to her and shot her, murdered her. that's what. I mean, come on. But there you have it. I'll put the link to this in the description. It was interesting. You know, had the victim not again, I thought it was like a decent hearing by listening to by actually trying to hear what he was saying, but then a few points bitches. Anyways, what do you think? With that, I'll leave you with the final words from the victim who has just been re-victimized.
We had to tell my dad, it's okay, Dad. You can go, Dad. She's with you. She's in your mind. She's in your heart. We shouldn't have had to do it that way. We should have had her with us to support the fact of losing her dad. I realize in his statements he has lost family members, and my heart goes out to him as well.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact of taking a life, we're in fear. What family is left is in fear that this is going to happen to another family member.